A cryptic line buried in the newly released Jeffrey Epstein files, a reference to US President Donald Trump blowing Bubba, ignited a political firestorm on Thursday.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein, the Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats.
The snippet appeared in a recently released tranche of emails tied to Jeffrey Epstein. House investigators and journalists have been parsing thousands of messages for years. Each release often produces one or two items that metastasize into headlines and social media salvos. In this case, the line wasn't from Jeffrey himself, but from his brother, Mark Epstein, an important detail because it changed how people read intent, context, and credibility. Mark's email referenced a rumor-like image of Trump and the name Bubba and addressed Jeffrey's network. That was enough to set off speculation. The viral mechanics, why this one blew up. Why did this throwaway line capture attention more than a dozen other salacious emails? First, it combines three political red meat items: Trump, Putin, and a nickname long associated with Bill Clinton. Second, the digital era converts innuendo into headlines within minutes. Influencers and meme creators amplified the line into visuals and jokes. Third, the line's vagueness invites projection. People fill gaps with familiar narratives: sex scandal conspiracies, compromat fears, and partisan vendettas. That mix, ambiguity plus powerful actors, is a perfect viral cocktail. The obvious theory is Bubba, Bill Clinton. Bubba has been shorthand for Bill Clinton in American political culture for decades, so the instant reflex was to read the email as a hint that Epstein or his circle had compromising material involving Trump and Clinton. That interpretation tapped into long-running Clinton-Epstein rumors and the broader cultural appetite for salacious symmetry. The two former presidents linked to the same shadowy player. But reflexes aren't evidence. After the email circulated widely, Mark Epstein explicitly denied that Bubba referred to Bill Clinton and said the remark was a private joke about a private individual. That denial has not ended speculation, but it forced a more careful parsing of how quickly public assumptions form from nicknames. Alternate candidates. Who else could Bubba be? Once the Clinton hypothesis was publicly discounted by Mark Epstein, journalists and sleuths widened the net. Investigators searched the Epstein correspondence, social circles, and political donor lists for anyone nicknamed Bubba. That search produced several possibilities, from private aides and friends to less famous GOP donors with the informal moniker. Vanity Fair, diving into local ties, flagged a Texas oil scion nicknamed Bubba, whose family's political spending and social media footprint made him a subject of interest. Though Vanity Fair stressed there's no proof he's the person referenced in the email. The lesson? Nicknames are slippery objects. They can mean anything from intimate shorthand to coded references to pets, horses, or private jokes. And denial. Whether the line referred to Clinton, an obscure donor, or an inside joke, the political fallout was immediate. Trump supporters used the email to demand full disclosure of Epstein files, arguing they would expose hypocrisy, while opponents used the same release to spotlight Trump's long-documented connections to Epstein. Media outlets and late-night shows turned the email into punchlines. Investigators and lawyers treated it as potential evidence to be followed or debunked. Mark Epstein's statement, calling the email a joke and denying public figure implication, didn't extinguish the inferno. Instead, it shifted the conflict into theater. Who can force the rest of the files into the light, and who benefits politically from the ambiguity? Memes, misinformation, and the new documentary politics. The Bubba line shows how the contemporary media ecology turns private notes into public mythology. Meme creators, partisan pages, and algorithmic feeds turned a 3-word fragment into thousands of takes. Many of those takes were comedic or satirical. Others were conspiratorial and fact-light. Fact-checkers tried to contain the spread with careful sourcing and context, but containment is rarely as fast as virality. The email also exposed structural problems. Once a narrative takes hold online, corrections from primary actors like Mark Epstein's denial often register far less strongly than the original claim. So politics today can be, and often is, steered less by documents than by how documents are framed and amplified. What this means for Trump, Putin, and public trust. Finally, the Bubba episode underscores 3 durable risks. First, for Trump, even peripheral mentions in the Epstein files sustain a reputational drag that opponents can weaponize. His allies counterattack by demanding fuller disclosure, which keeps the story alive. Second, for Russia and Putin, invoking Putin as an alleged possessor of compromat is an example of how modern geopolitics is infused with personal scandal narratives, accurate or not, blurring foreign policy questions with salacious intrigue. Third, for civic life, when an offhand sentence can catalyze months of speculation, public trust in institutions that adjudicate truth, courts, press, investigators, erodes. The longer ambiguity persists, the more the public substitutes rumor for verified fact, and the more political capital flows to those who can most effectively make noise. A nickname that became a mirror. The mystery of Bubba is less about identifying a single person and more about what the frenzy revealed, how modern politics, media, and power play off one another. A tiny, jokey email exposed raw nerves about sex scandals, about foreign leverage, about partisan theater, and showed how easily private language becomes public leverage. Mark Epstein's denial closed one door but left many windows open, and the public will keep peeking through them until better facts arrive. If there's a practical takeaway, it's this. In an era of instantaneous amplification, the responsible actors are not only investigators and journalists, but citizens who demand evidence over insinuation. Nicknames and leaked lines will continue to surface. The healthier response is to insist on verifiable context, to treat viral claims skeptically, and to refuse the magnetic pull of rumor that substitutes spectacle for truth. Because, if anything is clear from the Bubba affair, it's that a single phrase can tell us more about our politics than about any private life, and what it tells us about ourselves is worth watching.